Hi,
Teacher.
Nee. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you. And you?
I'm good, thank you. Just want to see. Okay, just want to see. Oh, okay, topic 7 here. Okay, let's talk about living in the city, accommodation. What difficulties do you think people have living in a city? What can be difficult by living in a city?
Uh, must I read the example?
You can read the example, yeah.
Living in the city can be challenging due to several issues. One significant issue is traffic congestion, especially during peak hours. Lots of cars on the road can make it really difficult to get around the city. It is frustrating to get stuck in traffic, and it can take ages to get where you need to go. Plus, living in a city can be expensive as the cost of housing and living expenses tend to be higher than in suburban or rural areas. This can make it challenging for people with lower incomes to afford to live in the city. Also, cities are noisy with constant traffic, con- construction, and other disturbances. This can make it. Can you go down?
Okay, so this answer is a little bit long, but I would say I would say traffic is definitely the first problem, and then the income, the living expenses. Uh, so here they are talking about traffic, um, living expenses. Um, the cities can be noisy for construction, and maybe they have a higher level of crime. So here they're talking about that. So we need to make this our own. You can start reading from here again. This can make
One significant issue is traffic congestion, especially during peak hours. Lots of cars on the road can make it really difficult to get around the city. It is frustrating to get stuck in traffic, and it can take ages to get where you need to go. Plus, living in a city can be expensive as the cost of housing and living expenses tend to be higher than in suburban or rural areas. This can make it challenging for people with lower incomes to afford to live in the city. Also, cities are noisy with constant traffic, construction, and other disturbances. This can make it difficult for residents to get a night's sleep or to concentrate on work or study. Finally, urban areas can also have higher levels of crime and safety concern, making it difficult for people to feel secure in their homes and communities. These challenges can make city living less appealing for some people and may lead them to seek alternatives.
okay. Hi, Icy. Let me take this away. Okay, so I agree. Living in the city can be challenging due to several issues, okay? Here are the issues: traffic, living expenses, noisy because of construction, higher level of crime. But the biggest reason is traffic. One significant issue is the traffic congestion, especially during peak hours. Lots of cars on the road can make it really difficult to get around in the city. It's frustrating to get stuck in traffic, and it can take ages to get where you need to be. Plus, living in the city can be expensive, and the cost of housing and living expenses tends to be higher than in the suburban or rural areas. Okay, so that we will keep. Then we can add another factor, or you can say, is that cities can be noisy. Or you can say here, due to several issues. Another issue here. Another issue is that cities can be noisy due to construction, cars, and people. Cities tend to have a higher level of crime because there are more houses, businesses, and people. Okay, so these are the issues you can add there. Icy, what difficulties do people have living in the city? So you can read this answer, Icy.
Living in the city can be challenging due to several issues. One significant issue is traffic congestions, especially during peak hours. Lots of cars on the road can make it really difficult to get around in the city. It's frustrating to get stuck in traffic, and it can take age to get where you need to go. Plus, living in the city can be expensive as the cost of housing and living expenses tends to be higher than in suburban or rural areas. Another issue is that cities can be noisy due to construction, cars, and people. Cities tend to have a higher level of crime because there are more houses, business, and people.
Businesses and people. Okay,
Businesses
good. Nhi, what difficulties do people have living in the city?
Living in a city can be challenging due to several issues. One significant issue is traffic congestion, especially during peak hours. Lots of cars on the road can make it really difficult to get around the city. It is frustrating to get stuck in traffic, and it can take ages to get where you need to go. Plus, living in a city can be expensive as the cost of housing and living expenses tends to be higher than in suburban or rural areas. Another issue is that cities can be noisy due to construction, cars, and people. Cities tend to have a higher level of crime because there are more houses, businesses, and people.
Yes. Now, if you think of your city, Nhi, do you think these are the problems in your city?
I think in my city there are one more problem.
What's
Uh,
that?
because of there are a lot of cars and it cause traffic. Furthermore, it's also cause um for pollution.
Pollution, yes. Pollution can be another problem. You can add pollution here. Pollution, when the air is not clean because of the cars, all the traffic.
Yes.
I see. What can you think of another problem in the city?
Um,
Can you think of more things?
um, yeah, the there are many cars.
Yes, okay. So these are all the problems we have in our cities. We've got traffic, we've got pollution, we've got the living expenses, noise, we've got the higher level of crime. Okay, so I want you to talk about these and say things like, remember. So let me do the outline for you. So let's brainstorm the ideas. Hang on, before I do this. Just save this. Okay, now. Okay, here. So we've got traffic. Typing. We've got traffic, and with that, pollution adds into it. We've got noise, complaints, and with that, it comes construction. We've got expenses, so your living expenses. Everything is more living expenses. We've got crime. Okay, now, when you talk about these, you add things. You don't just say, well, difficulties in a city is a lot of traffic, pollution, noise, living expenses, and then you're done. You can't speak little. You have to speak for a long time. Now we're going to think of ideas that we can say about traffic. So here you can say, lots of cars on the roads. Take a long time to get where you want to go, to get to a place. Stuck in traffic. You're gonna be stuck for a long time and then be late. Okay. Pollution. You can say all the cars, buses, taxis, they are polluting the air. So it's not fresh air that you are breathing. So there, it's like a dark cloud in the middle of the city where you can see the pollution. The noise level. Now we're going to talk about noise level. Noise level is there's always construction. There are always building new businesses or offices. People, cars, where you can hear their hooters, or their brakes. So those make noises. You can hear the music they play in their car. People that's walking on the street, laughing, screaming, talking. Cars, you can hear their, what do you call it, Nhi? Is it a hooter or a tooter? What do you call it that side? Beep, beep. What do you call that?
Beep beep.
A horn? When they blow their horn? Yes?
Yes.
Yes, they blow their horn. Okay. Living expenses. Food prices are more because there's more people. Food prices. Housing. When you have to rent, your rent is going to be high. Your water is going to be high. Electricity is going to be high. Okay, talk about that. Crime. Why is crime higher? Because there's more people in a city. They don't have to go far to commit a crime. More people, not far to commit a crime. If I live in the countryside and someone in the city wants to come to my farm and steal my car, they have to go a long way to come to my house. But if Icy is living in the city and Nhi wants to take her car, Nhi doesn't have to go far to take her car. Nhi has to go really far to the countryside to take my car. Okay, so there's more people, more stuff to steal or to take. It's crime. Or to take your purse. Not far to commit a crime. Okay, right, I want you to think about this and talk about this. Now remember, you're not just saying it, you have to create sentences so that you can speak for a little while. Okay, okay, Nhi, you can start. Now remember, these are the causes, these are the difficulties and the issues. What did we say? What is the first issue? The first issue is traffic. Here, traffic, that's the first issue. And then you talk about traffic. Then you carry on with the noise, the living expenses, and crime. Okay, you try first, Nhi.
Living in a city have a lot of difficulties. Firstly, because there are a lot of people are living in a city, so there are a lot of transportation such as cars, motorbikes, or bus, and uh, those transportation take a long time to get to a place, especially at peak hours. So it will cause traffic, and a lot of people living in a city may stuck in the traffic and may cause them to be late. Because that I mentioned before, there are a lot of transportation, so it's also cause pollution, and there are less fresh air in a city than in a countryside. Plus, living in a city may cause noise from construction, from people or uh, cars and horn. Mm, there are a lot of noise others in a city. Furthermore, living expenses is also a difficulties difficult people
It's high.
for people.
It's high. The living expenses are higher. It's high.
Yeah, because there are a lot of people living in a city. Also, the living expenses are higher, and also another item, food prices, house for rent, water and electricity. Uh, lastly, uh, lastly, also crime is one of the difficulties for people living in a city because there are more people. So Also, there are more staff and crime crime are easy to steal items from them and not far for them to steal the item that they want.
Okay, good. Now remember another thing why it's more expensive. Why is it more expensive to hire a house or to rent a house in the city than in the countryside? Because the demand is more. I've got 5 people that wants to rent my house in the city, and I've got no one that wants to rent my house in the countryside. Why is that? Because there's something in the city that attracts the people. They want to live in the city. There's better jobs there. There's more entertainment. So that's why the prices are high. Here you can say something that attracts people. That's why the prices are higher. Because people want to be in the city. They want its entertainment and jobs. And jobs that can attract them. Okay, I see you try. So let's listen to the question. What difficulties do people have living in the city? These are our difficulties. These are ideas for you to speak and to say about them, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
The things that difficult for people that having that have living in the city is about the traffic pollution. Yeah, traffic is caused a lot of cars and is take a long time to get to a place and is stuck in traffic and make people late for work or for school. And furthermore is the pollution. The pollution that is from bad pollution from cars, buses, and taxis, and it does not have fresh air when have a lot of car. This transportation. And the second reason, the second difficulties that people have living in the cities is noise. That are the constructions of buildings, and also the people that are walking and cars and horns. Moreover, living expenses is of cost of food rise, housing, rent, and have less of water and electricity. But finally, the crimes is the
Okay, now remember, these are ideas. I see you need to put it like an essay form. You have to link your ideas. So to start off with, you can say, there are many difficulties living in a city. But the most significant one is the traffic. And then you start talking, that's your opening sentence. There are many difficulties living in a city, but the most significant one is traffic, and talk about the traffic. There are lots of cars in cities, lots of traffic jams. You get stuck in traffic because during peak hours, everybody needs to be at school or at their job at a certain time. The school starts at 8 o'clock and I start at 8 o'clock. So there's lots of cars on the roads for us to get there. So now we get stuck. And it's frustrating to get stuck in traffic because it makes me late. Another problem or another issue. So then you can say, secondly, and you can start talking. Secondly, there's lots of environmental pollution. Environmental pollution. Secondly, there's environmental pollution due to all the cars, buses, bikes, taxis on the roads, which depletes our fresh air. Then you can say here, another difficulty or another issue is the living expenses is quite high because the city attracts people to stay there. There's lots of people interested in to hire or to rent a apartment because of their job and entertainment. Young people don't want to stay in the countryside. They want to stay in the cities where the buzz is. Plus, crime. Crime is much higher in the city because there's more people and more stuff that they can take. It's not far for them to travel to take from people. Mugging. Mugging is a big issue in cities because there's lots of people walking. So they take your purse, they take your phone, so they mug you. So mugging is a big crime. Okay, so here are your words that you can use to help you talk about these issues. Icy, I want to let you try again.
There are many difficulties living in the city, but the most significant one is the traffic. There's a lot of cars, and it take a long time to get to a place. Also, traffic is the traffic problem is stuck in traffic and make everyone late for work or for school. Secondly, environmental secondly, that the problem is environmental pollution. Pollution is there are cars, buses, and taxis. This make the make the like have least fresh air and not have white cloud anymore.
Okay.
Another issue is noise. Noise that is construction construction, building, and people working, cars, and horn. Thus, these problems make cities busy and always noisy. Uh, uh, Living expenses is a um, pro- problem that have a high food price, with housing, rent, and high water and electricity. Um, plus, farm is easy to like take the things of someone, such as the phones or money. That's because in the cities there are more people and more stuff, so it's not hard to commit the crime.
Okay, just making notes. Okay, okay, Nhi, you try. What difficulties do people have living in the city?
There are many difficulties living in a city, but the most significant one is the traffic. Because a lot of people are living in a city, so there are a lot of transportation such as cars, motorbikes, and also bus. And those transportation take a long time to get to a place, especially in peak hours. Uh, People usually stuck in traffic and they will be late for school or work. Secondly, uh, it's also significant uh, is the environmental pollution because there are a lot of transportation, so it causes environmental pollution and there are less fresh air in the city. Plus, there there no, it is very noisy for people living in the city because the noisy are from construction when people are building or from people because they are working or cars if the driver use the horn. So those cause noisy in the city. Moreover, uh, living expenses are have higher cost because there are more people living in the city, so the price are higher. Also, the food price, the housing for rent, water and electricity are higher too. Uh, lastly, lastly, the issues is crime because there are a lot of people living in the city, so there are more stuff for crime that they may want to steal it. And furthermore, it is not far to commit a crime in a city. For example, when you are when a person is working on the street and uh, they're listening to their phone and the crime may steal their their bags that they are carrying on a shoulder.
Yes. Okay, good. Okay. I want you also to add your own examples, okay? What are you saying to me about the cloud? You're not saying much about that, or fresh air. You need to you can leave the cloud out actually. You need to add some examples and not just say what you can see here. You have to add your own ideas and examples, okay? So I want you to try one more time, Icy. What difficulties do people have living in the city?
There are many difficulties
Difficulties?
difficulties living in the city, but the most significant one is the traffic.
Okay, let's start again, Icy.
There are many difficulties living in the cities, but the most significant one is traffic. There are a lot of cars in cities, and it takes a long time to get to place. Also, it's constant stuck in traffic and make you get go to work or go to school late. Secondly, uh the difficulties in cities is environmental pollution. There are cars, buses, and taxis that uh, have a um, but not fresh air, and is le less the fresh air and make uh the cities not have the fresh air anymore. Another issue is that the noise noise that is the constructions and people walking a cars and home uh that's that's make the cities uh busy and noisy. Uh and living expenses cause the high food price with housing and high water and electricity. Uh,
Okay, you're not finished? You finished?
no. Plus is crimes is easy uh to take anything of someone. That's because in city is more people and more stuff, so they can that easy to text, and furthermore is not far to commit a crime.
Okay. Okay, good. Let's go on to a next one. You can still practice this one in your own time. What's the difference between living in an apartment and in a house? Okay, so the difference between living in an apartment and in a house, they've got distinct differences because it's a huge difference. It's not only a little difference. There's distinct. So that means big differences between the two. One of the most noticeable differences between living in an apartment and living in a house is the amount of space you have. Houses tend to have more space than apartments, with large rooms, more storage, outdoors. Apartments, on the other hand, tend to be more compact. So this, I want you to think about your own ideas. So I'm going to take this away. Generally, houses have more space, like backyards, gardens, swimming pools, storage, garage. Whereas apartments don't. They've got smaller rooms, compact rooms. So here, I'm going to take that away. Here, you're going to say your own examples. Own examples about a house and the space the house have, and about an apartment and what their apartment has. Okay, now remember, when you see a house, or here, you can add things like, here you can add things like swimming pool, garden, garage, storage space, large rooms, and apartment, you add smaller rooms, small rooms, no garage or garden or storage. Okay. Another difference between apartments and houses is the amenities they offer. Apartment buildings often have shared amenities where you share. In contrast, houses usually have their own. Open maintenance stores, responsible, and of course, condition between an apartment is the cost. Okay, so then here, this is one idea. So let me circle the ideas. Your first idea would be distinct differences, such as the space. The amount of space is your first difference. Then the amenities they offer. Amenities is like the pool, the laundry room. You have to share that in an apartment. Maybe you have to share a garage, but in your own house, you don't. Another difference is to the maintenance of it, taking care of it. Your own house, you have to take care of it. Apartment, there is somebody that takes care of it. Maintenance and repairing. And then the cost. It's much cheaper to live in an apartment than in a house. Okay, so here, okay, here you can say your own. Here you can say your own ideas about maintenance. Okay, own ideas about maintenance. Okay, and of course the cost about it. So here you can all say your own things about the cost and maintenance. Also have maintenance responsibilities, and then you also talk about the cost. Okay, so Icy, what's the difference between living in an apartment and living in a house? See if you can try. I see.
Sorry, I forget to mute me.
Okay, start again.
The difference between living in an apartment and in a house is in the own house, own swimming pool, own garden, and garage, storage space, and also large rooms. And thus as have a big amount of in in the apartments that have small rooms and is is when you live in the apartments have no gardens or and gardens. There's just one room. And but the benefit of apartment is convenient. Doesn't have a um place to cook. The bedrooms and like isn't have a place to do anything in. And the cost for the cost is expensive when like each month you have to pay the money for the own apartment. And when you live in a house, you don't need to pay any money. And
Okay, you finished?
that in the house that easy to me that we go to anywhere, and when we uh go home is have a place to like a last place to get to go to rest. And the apartments when we live that uh we have to go on the stairs. That's uh and it's tight.
Okay, good. Let's try Nhi. What's the differences between living in an apartment and in a house?
Actually, living in an apartment and living in a house have a lot of differences. One of the most normal difference,
Noticeable. Noticeable.
one of the most noticeable differences uh, between living in an apartment and living in a house is the amount of space. When we live in a house, we can have a lot of floor, maybe second floor, third floor, or even the fourth floor. But when we live in an apartment, we just living in a big room with another small room, bathroom, bedroom, living room, and kitchen. They are just in a big room. Uh, Secondly, another difference between apartments and houses is the amenities that they offer. When we live in a house, we can have swimming pool. We can have our own swimming pool or garden to plant flower or trees and garage, storage place, and uh, we even own a large rooms. But when we live in an apartment, we need to share a swimming pool and garage with other people that living with us in a flat. And for example, when we go home late at night, or even there are no space in the garage for us to put our motorbikes or cars. Uh, Thirdly, another normal difference that we can see when living in an apartment and living in a house is their maintenance. Living in apartment, we may have more maintenance because there are a lot of people live together in a flat. Therefore, at each floor, we have maybe one or two cameras in each corner. But when we live in a house, there are less people, and maybe if the crime come to our house at night, we don't know because we are sleeping. Lastly, lastly, also the difference between living in apartments and living in houses is that the price. Living in a house is cost more money than living in an apartment because living in a house we can live in a larger space with a lot of floor that we can own them, and also the price are much higher than people when living in an apartment. They are just living a big room with another small room, so the price are higher.
Good, well done. Okay, we're gonna stop here and let's save this. I want you to practice these two questions again, okay? And try and remember your own ideas, okay? Good job,
Yes.
girls. I'll see you next time. Bye, Icy. Bye, Nhi.
Bye, teacher.